Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pulse Online, which is a series of videos where we're going to be interviewing brands, clients, and some of our team. The goal is to have experts in their field talk to us about their specialism and what they do day to day. So today we've got James Dodds, who's the creative lead of Avant, and he's going to talk us through best-in-class creative content trends and what brands should be doing kind of like over the next 12 to 18 months. James, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks very much, Josh. As Josh said, I'm the creative lead of Avant. So that means I handle all of the creation of creative assets for our clients, as well as keeping on top of best practices, trends within the industry.
And as of recently, you're also a content creator on the side, starting to mingle in some creative and content on the side, right?
Yeah, so we're trying to get a little bit more involved in shoots in general. We recently did a little shoot with my friend out in Spain where we hired a funny little camper van and drove around for a few days shooting some stuff for a brand, which was fun.
Amazing. First question I wanted to talk around is, I guess you're getting more involved in shoots. I especially can see like limitations with a shoot which would have existed 2 years ago, very focused on campaign imagery, very focused on e-com imagery, versus kind of like today's modern requirements for content are very different. And I know
Yeah.
that brands are like explicitly asking you for a brief in terms of what to capture at the shoot. They're asking you to even go on the shoot to kind of like, recommend what bits of clips to get and everything else. So yeah, what do you think are some of the like challenges of shoots today, and where do you fit in there?
Um, yeah, so I think it's almost about shifting the mindset from a traditionally thinking about campaign shoots, like you say, towards thinking about the way that people consume ads these days, which is obviously primarily through a phone.
Yeah.
And so rather than thinking about traditionally where you'd film a campaign video, 16 by 9, however many minutes long, thinking about filming it with how it's going to be consumed in mind. So not just creating that campaign video, um, but also thinking about what trends are working on social, thinking about making mobile first content as well. Um, and yeah, really thinking about those things.
Amazing. Yeah, and I think probably another like so we'll probably have a lot of numbers in this online series, be a lot of stats. But yeah, first one I wanted to recall was so 50% of time on Instagram now is people consuming reels, and I just
Yeah.
think a reel in terms of what consumers are engaging with, what they expect to see, how fast and kind of like the style of the content is so different to 8 years ago when we built Facebook ads. It would be a single image was the number one ad you
Yeah.
would be building, and I just think we're trying to respond so quickly to what consumer needs are now and what consumer trends are. So, what's your view on kind of like, yeah, where reels sit and how brands can really facilitate the content which people are consuming today?
Yeah. So I guess, obviously, like you say, it's all a lot of what is consumed nowadays is reels. And obviously, that's come from TikTok as well. So it's about trying to, I think, brands need to be thinking about creating content that people actually want to watch rather than just, branded, shoving their brands down people's throats, you know, um, thinking about things like interesting creators and I guess influencers as well, but like more like creative people that are producing content for mobile first,
Yeah.
social first. Yeah, and just really, I mean, obviously, yeah, Reels has completely changed the way that people consume social media. So sound on,
Yeah.
people used to consume with sound off. Most, like the majority of people watch stories and scroll through their feed with the sound off. But nowadays, you've got to be thinking about sound as well, not just having captions on screen, but having like a voiceover and things like that.
Yeah, great. And I think one thing I've noticed as well is I think a lot of our like D2C first brands, where they're quite young and they've built a brand on social, this is quite kind of like the norm to them.
Yeah,
Whereas some of the bigger brands we work with, where it's potentially a bit more legacy in terms of how things are set up, I think there's a lot of value we can bring in terms of demonstrating, what some of these trends are, and how to purpose build content for social. So I think if you were to have a couple of tips you could give a brand who are going to a shoot,
yeah.
yeah, I guess what sort of things would you be recommending? I know before you've said around like different lenses and transitions and
Yeah,
like quick animations of movements, but yeah, what sort of stuff would you be looking at?
yeah. So I think obviously with any shoot, planning is really important, but I think there are a few different things that you need to consider. So I think those campaign videos are still really important, but you need to be thinking about the other types of audiences who are going to be looking more at that different style of content, like influencer content, UGC style content. So planning your campaign shoot, but thinking about when you're planning the campaign shoot, thinking about the narrative of it, making sure you've got a really good narrative that people can buy into. And then within that narrative, you can get, just by having a really strong narrative, you can cut different sections of it or cut different parts of it and, you know, tailor those towards different messaging angles.
Yeah.
And then obviously having like someone on set who just has an iPhone as well to capture like behind the scenes content.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe more. So say you've got like, I don't know, a campaign shoot of something going on, you could have someone also just filming like these nice like little vignettes that are just like one, you know, like one shot.
Yeah,
Really
definitely.
nice, like elevated single shot pieces of that.
Like
that
static
really,
camera.
yeah, static camera, like really nicely. It fits into the campaign, but it's just a slightly different type of content.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, like you say, thinking about social first, so capturing attention within those first couple of seconds.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's lots of things to consider, but I think planning it out so that you are thinking about having different styles of content from one shoot is the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. And I was going to, I definitely wanted to reference Osprey. So I think that's a brand where you've done some amazing work to really, I guess, like foster creative diversity in terms of what we do. And obviously they wanted you to talk on the Meta panel at one of their events. Sadly, you're on holiday, so I took the position. Right. But I think that was a great example where, yeah, we've kind of like had some bleeding edge work in terms of like really diversifying the content for different audiences, purpose building content for different customer segments. So yeah, why don't you just talk through, I guess even just your view of creative diversity, and then we can kind of like flow down through from there.
Yeah, okay. So I mean, I guess creative diversity, it's all about segmenting your creative and targeting through the creative. And so figuring out your customer personas, whoever they may be.
Yeah.
Or obviously, if you've got one customer persona that's 18 to 30, they're going to consume content in a completely different way to someone who's 30 to 50, or whatever the differences are. So thinking about who the customer profiles are, what resonates with them, but also further than just like what kind of style of content, like the editing and things like that. Like someone from a younger audience is maybe more used to consuming stuff on TikTok.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a specific way of editing ads and shooting ads, which is different to someone who's maybe prefers traditional sort of style.
And what's that, like faster edits, like what's the whip pan transitions?
Yeah,
so about, like iPhone shot.
And that's like more, I guess, what people are into. So like for an action, if you've got someone who's into like action sports or something, whip pan, like you say, really fast whip pan transitions, like fast editing, obviously a different style of music. And then for someone who's more interested in like high-end fashion, they might be more, or like outdoorsy, like nature, they might be more interested in like a slower pace of like, you know, just like one really nicely crafted shot.
Yeah, so lovely. So who, obviously we spend a lot of time going through, so obviously within Abacus, we're starting to kind of like collate results from the ad library. We use third-party tools to track different ads and software, different ads and kind of like creative being put out there. Who would you say are potentially some brands that do this quite well? Like who could you go and look at in terms of, you know, this brand really architects content for this persona. This brand really kind of like changes what they're doing from a creative perspective for this customer demographic. Who do you think could be a good example to look at?
Yeah, so I mean, one that we talk about quite often is Loop earplugs.
Yeah.
They do a really good job of exactly what you just said, making sure that they are creating different types of content for those different audiences. Yeah. So literally, I'll see an ad for them, and as someone in their 30s, it's who enjoys music. It's an ad about not being able to sleep in a tent at a festival.
Yeah.
Whereas someone in my team who's younger The ads that they're seeing are more like they're very obviously focused at Gen Z,
Yeah.
kind of like along the lines of like Brat Summer
Yeah. I saw it
style
on the
style
shoulders,
design, yeah, and then
right at the front.
yeah, exactly, and even just the design style is completely different. Like the older, the sort of some of their ads look more premium, almost like Bose
Yeah.
headphones, very sleek, very minimalist. Whereas like the other some of them are quite loud colors
Yeah.
and yeah, very different design styles, but you can still tell it's them.
Yeah, definitely. I think they do that very well, and I don't think we necessarily need to go into the whole concept of like creative is targeting,
Yeah,
just because I think that's probably a separate subject. But I think
yeah,
that's definitely a good example where you can just freely let the algorithm optimize towards people who engage with that content, and just almost just like throw it out there.
yeah.
What brands do we work with where you're seeing that they've got like best in class creative and content?
Yeah, so Champion is a really good example, who do exactly kind of what I was talking about earlier with they'll do a campaign video, and then from that campaign video there'll be maybe the campaign video is a minute or a minute and a half
Yeah.
long, and then there'll be a 30-second cut down, a 15-second cut down, a 6-second cut down, and then from there we'll work with them and we'll create maybe like just like a looping video of like different moments
Yeah.
throughout the video that are like almost maybe one is more product focused, maybe one is more just sort of selling the vibe of the campaign, and then working our way down the funnel we kind of maybe we'll do a carousel that kind of goes a little bit more in links the campaign back to the
Amazing.
product a little bit
Yeah. Yeah.
more, and then like make some that are just purely focused on product but with the same branding of the overall campaign, so it all ties in together, but you're nailing at each level of the funnel.
Yeah.
And then obviously, like we said, designing slightly different styles, so for the different types of audiences, so also doing like more sort of interview style content that isn't like campaign, it's
Yeah.
just interview with creators, which obviously slightly different from the campaign but ties it all together.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I think there's so much requirements on brands today in terms of
Yeah,
purpose building content for the audience,
yeah,
purpose building content for the market in terms of market nuance, and then purpose building content for the stage of the funnel as well. And I think Champion's a brilliant example where, like, if you went through the ad library, you would pretty clearly see what content we've built for low funnel, what content we've built for a net new consumer.
yeah,
And I think their storytelling aspect is amazing as well.
yeah,
So
it's brilliant.
they're like one of my favorite brands, just in
Yeah,
terms of they invented the hoodie. They sponsored all of the NBA teams from 1990 to 2000. So like Jordan's jersey,
yeah.
John Stockton, Karl Malone, all the like big players back then were Champion. And yeah, what do you think some of the best ads are we've built for those guys?
I mean, we've done so many.
Just put you right on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't necessarily make them, but the Loyal Kana campaign, the Fabric of a Champion.
Yeah.
That one I loved that one, and we worked on some of the ads to go alongside the main campaign for that one. I think that campaign as a whole is just brilliantly done,
Yeah.
and the way that they brought in different creators from. One from Manchester, one from Paris, one from Berlin, from different cities to
amazing.
kind of
Yeah.
localize it as well, was really good, really clever.
Yeah, very nice. And then so we're only on to my second stat of the day.
Yeah.
But so 35% of time spent on Meta is consumers engaging with influencer or creator content. So pretty significant. I think we've historically, a lot of our brands have been quite slow to adopt it. I think we work for a lot of premium luxury brands. I think if you're, D2C first, low AOV influencers kind of like makes sense probably as your first port of call. But for our brands or our clients, they've been quite slow to adopt. But what's your view on I guess influencer usage? Like, what's the opportunity? Who do you think's doing it well? Big one as well, I guess we'll come on to, is like ownership of the content, and kind of like the importance of being able to iterate a good bit of content and like rebuild it and reuse it in the future. But yeah, what's your view on that whole industry?
Yeah, so it's obviously become like an essential part of building like a brand and online presence. But like you said, I think a lot of brands still have a slightly negative view of it. Yeah, but like I said, I think it's become like an essential part. You can't really ignore it. And I think it's about finding influencers, or I mean creators even, if you want to not use the word influencers,
definitely.
that resonate with your audience and your brand. And I think you can do that you can still do that in a really elevated way. There are loads of great creators, basically like filmmakers, videographers out there making mobile first, like amazing content that isn't just your traditional influencer selling something to you on an iPhone, you know. So there's loads of really talented filmmakers out there that have grown up with, you know, consuming content through a phone, so that's how they do it. And I think it's about finding the right ones of those that fit the brand. And I've got another stat for you, actually.
Go on. Nice change.
63% of young people believe what a creator they follow says more than a brand says.
Wow, so, very interesting.
Yeah, that just goes to show how important they can be.
Well, I'll throw a stat back at you. It's between 40 and 50%. I won't quote myself, but between 40 and 50% higher advocacy for a customer who buys through an influencer.
Well, there you go.
Versus someone who buys from the brand.
Yeah, so I think it's really important, and just
very nice.
It's important to do it the right way, and to put the same amount of time and effort as you would into a campaign as you do into finding the right 100%. Influencers and creators, as I like to call them.
And I think the first time I've seen that in kind of like in practice, I guess probably was with Champion, where you know, like the content their influencers or creators were producing like 18 months ago was just so high, and it looked as though it was like professionally shot. It looked as though
exactly
the brand themselves have done it, and I do think that would be such a nice gateway for brands to move into that space. If you're you know, you're literally hiring people where it looks as professional as something you'd do yourselves, but it is creators. They are more agile. They are shooting with iPhone. That's probably quite a nice place to start, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then so one thing I wanted to come on to as well is, I guess you obviously kind of like the creative team within Vivant's probably one of the fastest growing departments within the agency, and I guess there's a huge amount of potential change coming to creative, just in terms of, you know, how it's built and AI's position. But where are you getting your team to like invest their time? Like, where do you know, if you've got 4 people and 40 hours each a week, like what do you think adds most value to the agency? Like, where do they spend time? Is it in building concepts? Is it in research? Is it in fine tuning? Is it in adding the animations and fast transitions? Like, where do they spend most of their time?
Well, I guess the majority of our time is spent designing and making ads, but more and more we're focusing on like making sure we've got those concepts dialed, and research, and making sure we like you say, understand what works on social, and making sure that we've got, so when we're coming up with ideas, doing research, we're trying to come up with like not just one idea, but thinking about how we can use maybe one concept and edit it and make iterations for those different customer profiles that you said. So every time we're thinking about new ideas, we're trying to think, okay, let's not just do one ad, let's do like 3 different versions of it for these 3 different customer bases, and then hopefully we can take some learnings from that.
Next thing I thought we could talk about was, I guess when you joined Vivant, you probably had like a bit of a transition moving away from more purely based kind of like content design and builder to someone now where the role is pretty encompassed around like understanding the creative results, really analyzing, you know, drop off of video, why people click. But I would say we've definitely got clients and there's businesses out there where there is still quite a big separation between the people building the content and the people serving the ads. And I know you've spent a lot of time in terms of like building the purpose feedback loop and trying to, you know, foster more analysis within the paid team and upskilling kind of like creatives within different clients' businesses. But yeah, what's your view on how that feedback loop should look, and what have you seen work well?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not easy. We've been, like you say, putting in a lot more time recently to try and figure that out, figure out how to have the perfect sort of feedback loop and bridge the gap between creative and paid more. And yeah, it's I think it's it's all about making sure you're continually analyzing the performance and, like you say, looking at those metrics, whether it be thumb stop rate for video, or click through rate, or whatever it may be, and just making sure that you're continually having a feedback loop between the creative team or designers, video editors, and the paid team, and making sure that they're on the same page about what makes a good ad, and then having the paid team feedback continually to the creative team. Okay, these one from that last batch of creative, these ones worked, these ones didn't, and then working out together why they didn't work, and then feeding that back into the next round.
Yeah, perfect. And then so what are some of the metrics you're looking at to like truly determine, what's a succeeding ad and what's potentially an underperforming ad?
Yeah, so generally for top of funnel stuff, I'll be looking at, if it's video, thumb stop and hook rate and click through rate, and just looking at, so for, and then in terms of like analyzing them for those metrics, hook rate, if it's good, obviously means you've got a good hook, so you've got the first 2 seconds, the hook, whether it be a visual, audio, or like text. That's obviously good. Hook rate means you've nailed that bit, and then you can sort of pick it apart. So if the hook rate is good and the hold rate is bad, that means you've got bad narrative. So like you're losing people after those first 2 seconds. So then you need to work on the rest of the video to ensure that the storyline or the narrative is really engaging to keep people interested. And then obviously click through rate is super important. If people are clicking on the ad, they're interested in it. So those are sort of the main ones at top of the funnel, and then I guess bottom of the funnel is a bit more traditional. In terms of ROAS, things like that.
Basket ROAS. Any form of intent. That makes sense. And I think actually one of my favorite examples I think you did was like segmenting a video into kind of like multiple frames, and then just like truly understanding at what point the drop off was. So if you move from the brand narrative towards product, if that's the period where people are dropping off, maybe you need to change the product story, or maybe you need to change the call to action. But I thought that was like quite powerful in terms of like truly understanding when drop off is, and then how you optimize it, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I said, like picking apart the ad into like different sections, and you can kind of like try out different combinations of sections of video, see what works, and really figure it out.
Brilliant. And I guess we can't not discuss kind of like AI. And I know that I'm messaging you constantly in terms of little things that I see in little tools, and just whether it's going to add value to the Vomp. But what's your view on like the state of play with AI? Are we using it as much as we could be? What level do you think it's up to? What are the pros and cons, basically?
So I mean, obviously so much has been said about AI already. I don't know what more I can add to it, but from my view, we're probably not using it as much as we could be. But I don't think I have a feeling that people are pretending they're using it more than they are. Across the board. We use it. So for the creative team, we use, there are things within the Adobe suite that have been added that are just really useful for, like time efficiency. So things like generative expand and stuff like that. Just little things that have basically made things that maybe would have taken longer, just take less time. But that's always been the case with products like Adobe. They've always been releasing things that are making that easier. So AI is really useful in that aspect. But at the other places where I really see it as being useful is like in the ideation stage,
definitely
helping to bring your ideas along quicker. And then obviously it's not so great at spitting out fully formed ideas, but it can help you like get there quicker.
And is that with the concepting ideas as well, in terms of like actually building the idea through to like version 1, and then you just build it properly?
Yeah, sometimes more just in terms of like helping with brainstorming, like ChatGPT. If you've got an idea, you can put it to there and it'll give you like a bunch of different variations. Or like feeding stuff into it and just getting you to come up with the starts of ideas, and then you can like use that as a jumping off board. It's It's really useful for that. And then I guess there's a lot of tools out there at the moment that are like talking about, you give it an ad and it turns it into like 10 similar ads.
Yeah.
I've not seen one that works yet.
Okay.
Personally.
And what's the? Because I guess I'd kind of like see something and be like, wow, it looks great.
Yeah.
Well, I guess your eye is like much more orientated to detail. And
Yeah.
like, what are some of the problems of it?
From what I've seen, it looks like most of them are making an imitation of what an ad looks like. Do you know what I mean? Rather than making an actual ad.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but it's kind of like mimicking the look of an ad, which is product image here, text at the top. But if you look at them in detail, a lot of the time they change the product.
Yeah.
Which is like you can't use that.
Yeah.
And maybe I'd need to do more work on using them properly. But
But so if I said, so say we took Osprey, and more in the Gen AI side of things, I was like, we want to, we've got the concepts of ideas we think are brilliant, and we want to go and build 5 images with these backdrops.
Yeah.
In these countries with these models.
Yeah.
How confident would you be in a tool?
Yeah, I mean,
something like that?
Yeah. So for like mock-ups for shoots, for example, it's really useful. Like you say, building like because if you're trying to describe an image, and you can just put it into there, and it will kind of give you a good example. Maybe it's not a finished product, but if you're briefing in a photographer or trying to get a shot, then it can be really useful for that.
What about if you want the finished product?
You still, from what I've done so far, you still need to then craft it in like Photoshop or whatever,
like manual tweaks.
Which can be it can obviously be done.
Yeah.
I just don't think currently it's not saving me that much time.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, rather than using something that's already exists. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting.
But like I said, maybe I just need to look more into it.
Final question, and I think we spoke around like a few different ideas, but I'd love you to give the audience some quick tips. So if we do get asked this quite a lot as well, I guess. So, if they've got a studio for a day, they've got a couple of models coming in, they've brought in a new collection, the product's there, and they ask you what clips and what types of content do they need to be shooting, or what can they do to kind of like make sure they hit creative diversity, make sure they've got modern content for kind of like reels and, organic style content. What do you think brands can do?
So I think, like you said, the key is that you want to be nailing creative diversity. So thinking about, different types of shot. So if you're doing a campaign shoot, campaign video, campaign imagery, but then e-com style imagery as well.
Yeah.
Video, like you have to be doing video.
It does annoy me when people leave a shoot with like 1,000 images and no video.
Yeah. So even if it's like an e-com shoot, just in like a blank studio, just film it as well. Get like shots, the same photos, but just video. And so doing that, and then having a content creator there with an iPhone. I think most brands should probably have an in-house content creator these days, who's just like someone young that understands the TikTok, the Reels world, just filming on an iPhone. Maybe little behind-the-scenes interviews as well.
Yeah.
And then thinking about like you said before, I think different lenses and different angles.
Yeah, nice.
Fisheye lenses, one of my favorites.
What does that do?
It's really super wide angle. I mean, all the old skateboarding videos still are filmed with them. That's kind of
actually, and a lot of the premium brands as well are doing the whole like analog style, then moving down back to kind of like traditional.
Yeah, so just take like a digital video camera, an iPhone, a 35mm point and shoot camera.
Yeah.
Maybe like an old Digicam, like from the 2000s.
Yeah.
And just film a bunch of different styles of content using those different cameras.
Yeah, brilliant.
Relatively cheap.
I mean, I've definitely seen some ads where it just transitions from one to the other.
Yeah.
It's so impactful.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so watchable, so engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And just have those on hand for every shoot.
Yeah, nice. And actually, the final thing I think we often talk about, I guess, is I guess you call it like the merging of organic and paid content. Whereas I guess,
Yeah.
4 years ago, a paid ad, product image, big call to action, logo was probably a static image because it converted at a ROAS level. Organic was, more orientated around the brand, was probably quite fun.
Yeah.
You could definitely tell the difference between the two, but what's your view on like where those two sit today?
Yeah, so I think they're kind of merging, like you say. I think brands should be thinking about them more similarly than they used to because of the way that people consume. Like we've talked about, reels. Um, Most people's feeds nowadays are dominated by video, and you want to be producing content that people want to watch, and even more than that, want to share, which is the same sort of content that you'd be producing for your organic feed for people that already follow you. You want people to watch if they see, not everyone, and not if it's a really good, like static ad, but and it serves a different purpose. They're still important, but a lot of people just scroll straight past that. Whereas if you're sharing ads that are really good, watchable, shareable content, then people are going to watch them and buy into your brand. So I think, there's definitely like a merging or like a blurring of boundaries between paid and organic.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, only because you've used two words there, but I think if I could kind of like really build two new KPIs for brands, one would be like shareable content would definitely be one. It obviously massively benefits the organic algorithm.
Yeah.
But I think it's amazing for kind of like referrals and just like building advocacy. And then the other one would be attention. And I guess just like how do we measure and track attention in terms of hold rates, view rates.
Yeah.
But then equally, the value of that attention. So how do we turn that into consideration, purchase intent, and everything else?
Well, I think it's really interesting you mentioned attention, because I think what's important is, so first 2 seconds, like we always say, is like the most important. And so it's about building lots of small moments of attention.
Yeah.
So by using those different styles of content, and rather than trying to aim for like one big traditional campaign, one big piece of attention, so not many people are going to watch a minute long ad. But like if you've got lots of little bits of attention that are slightly different, maybe slightly different messaging, but all add up towards a really cohesive brand message, I think that's really important.
100%. Yeah, brilliant.
I'm not sure if I answered your question there, but
no, I think that's perfect. Yeah, spot on. Thank you, James. Yeah, I think that was a great episode. Very, very interesting. And thank you all for watching. Yeah, please head to vivant.com to learn more about the agency. There's going to be many more episodes. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you again soon.